Welcome to the anointed ones. The greatest betrayals come not from foes, but from idiots who exchange pearls for dust. Let it sink in. History is riddled with those who threw away the uncommon and valuable for something cheap, only to discover their error. Too late. Science verifies it. Humans are programmed to make impulsive decisions, preferring quick satisfaction above long-term benefit. That is why individuals sacrifice devotion for transient approval. Real friends are traded for hollow affirmation, and benefits are exchanged for burdens with the expectation that they have one. Spoiler alert, they haven't. You were a game changer. A once-in-a-lifetime find, the rarest of presents. And yet, someone looked at you and said, "I'll take the lesser option instead." But here's a twist. What they picked was not just a downgrade. It was a misfortune in disguise. And now, as they sit amid the ashes of their decisions, you'll see firsthand why losing you was their worst mistake. The narrative is not over. Let's discuss what occurs next. Number 1, they prefer the illusion of gold above the value of a diamond. They possess something distinctive, valuable, and difficult to imitate. Instead of realizing what was in their hands, they directed their eyes straight forward as something brighter. Something appeared more appealing at the moment. People do this all the time. They mix the peaceful, enduring value of a diamond with the brilliant, ephemeral flash of gold. They do not want to make the effort to understand true worth. So they chase what is spectacular on the surface. However, gold is not rare. Rather, it is frequent. It's plentiful. However, diamonds need pressure, patience, and refinement. When someone trades a diamond for fool's gold, it reveals more about their inability to detect quality than the diamond's value. This isn't about bitterness. It's about the truth. You were reliable, truthful, and strong. Those who want change, on the other hand, may not find stability attractive. So they selected something that promised excitement and made them feel special in the moment. They didn't realize that fool's gold loses its brilliance rapidly. The attraction fades, the illusion crumbles, and they are left with something of no real value. And here's the kicker, what they took away. That gift doesn't last. It does not want recognition. It continues on. And by the time they understand what they have lost, it is too late. Regret starts as a whisper, then becomes a persistent thought. It suddenly hits them like a freight train. By then you've disappeared, and all they have is the sad realization that they traded a precious jewel for something cheap, ephemeral, and never meant to last. They thought they were upgrading. Rather, they gambled and lost. Number 2. People leave you for something easier, not better. People replace value with convenience rather than with value. They depart not because they discovered someone better, but because they found someone more convenient. Someone who is not pushing them, who does not need progress, who permits them to stay just as they are, even if this means being stagnant, immature, or toxic. You were a mirror, and mirrors make people uncomfortable. You replicated their flaws, shortcomings, and unrealized potential. Not because you condemned them, but because your very presence made them recognize what they were capable of. So here's the deal. Some people may not want to progress. They do not want to face their own inadequacies. They do not want to be around someone who forces them to level up since it takes work. So they chose the easy option. The one who does not call them out. The one that satisfies their ego rather than their intellect. The one that makes them feel comfortable in their mediocrity. But comfort is deceptive. What seems amazing now is usually followed by regret tomorrow, since they will realize that they abandoned responsibility for complacency. They chose someone who let them settle in and encouraged them to accomplish more. And here's when the irony starts. What they thought was a simple decision would become their toughest challenge. The same thing that pushed them away from you will be what they miss the most. Because when life hits, when reality sets in and they begin to see faults in their so-called upgrading, they will realize that easy does not equate to satisfactory. That comfort does not mean pleasure, and that settling is enjoyable at first, but not for long. They replaced you with something less, not something better. Because some people would rather stay little than face the struggle of becoming great. And you were a challenge, a gift, but a difficulty they couldn't overcome. And it is not your loss, it's theirs. Number 3, they prefer the echo to the voice. You had a genuine voice that spoke the truth, brought clarity, and meant something. But the truth makes people uncomfortable, while clarity forces them to think. They did not express a wish for an echo. Someone who would repeat exactly what they wanted to hear, never challenging, questioning, or holding oneself accountable. You weren't tough. You were sincere. And sincere is scarce. Real doesn't just nod and agree. Real does not enable people to continue making errors. Real does not placate egos in order to keep the peace. You offer them honesty, insight, and perspective. But rather of loving it, they despised it. Not because you were wrong, but because they knew you were accurate, which was too much for them to handle. So they swapped you for someone easier. Someone who steals ideas rather of coming up with their own. Someone who says yes when they should say no, and who flatters them instead of telling the truth. Initially, it feels good, as affirmation usually does, but validation without substance is pointless at some point. They'll notice the shift. They'll learn that an echo cannot lead or confront them. It's simply noise, repetitive, vacuous, and ultimately worthless. What they choose instead of you will not help them develop. It will never propel them forward. It will not help them develop. And when life demands actual answers, knowledge, and power, the echo they opted for will become irrelevant. And then they'll remember you. They dismissed the voice, the one that really mattered. They exchanged it with a low-cost knockoff. But by then, it won't matter since you won't waste your time on people who want to create a fuss. You speak where you may be heard. You pour into those who listen. You leave echoes for those who are too afraid of the truth. Number 4, they already had the curse. They just needed a reason to release it. Some people betray you not because they have changed, but because they have discovered a reason to remain themselves. The curse was not in what they chose. It was always there, waiting for the right moment to show itself. You did not cause their betrayal, selfishness, or lying. You simply got close enough to expose it. People wear masks for as long as required. They pretend to be faithful, loving, and trustworthy until a situation permits them to be who they really are. When they saw an opportunity to trade you for something or someone else, they pounced at it. Not because they found anything better, but because they were never quite what they seemed to be. They only needed a reason to stop pretending. Your presence did not make them feel more uneasy. It merely highlighted their pre-existing anxiety. Your strength made them feel inadequate. Your persistence made them feel untrustworthy. Your candor made their lies feel heavier. The problem was not you. They were no longer as substantial, genuine, or trustworthy as they once were. What do you think? They did not change when they departed. Rather, they exposed themselves, revealing something that existed long before you entered the scene. They may tell themselves a different story, stating that they left because they had to. That circumstances changed, and it wasn't personal. But what is the truth? They've always been capable of it. They just did not have the right moment, cause, or trigger to act on it. So don't blame yourself for their choice. Don't think for a second that you pushed them into it. People do not exchange blessings for curses unless something in them was cursed from the beginning. And all you did was shine light on it. Number 5. Some people would rather drown in chaos than swim in tranquility. Some people do not desire peace. They want pleasure even if it means harming themselves. They see stability not as a gift, but rather as a prison. They confuse stability with boring and see change as thrilling. And that is why they traded you. You lacked drama, and it was not worth providing them with anything. Genuine safety, honesty, and dedication. But for someone addicted to dysfunction, this seems like suffocation. They don't understand how to exist in a world where love isn't a conflict, and they aren't always seeking, mending, or proving something. They feel that without conflict, there is no passion. If there is no toxicity, there will be no connection. They do not desire tranquility. They like the emotional ups and downs, the constant tension that makes them feel something, even if it's terrible. So they left or wrecked what they had with you because they were uncomfortable with the idea of long-term peace. They relished the excitement of uncertainty, not knowing where they stood, and having something chaotic to occupy their thoughts. Instead of seeing it as an issue, they convinced themselves that you were the issue, that your consistency was boring, your dependability was predictable, and your love was not exciting enough. But here is when reality kicks in. Turmoil is not sustainable. Drama is not the same as love. And the joy they sought dissipates into exhaustion. Because instability costs money. It drains, devastates and leaves people feeling empty. And by the time they realize that peace was never an adversary, stability was never burdensome, and the connection with you was genuine, you are gone. And they've ended up exactly where they wanted to be, drowning in the same chaos that they thought would bring them bliss. Sixth, their short-term delight transformed into long-term misery. People who think short-term are more likely to lose in the long run. They chose what felt nice at the moment, what seemed easy, entertaining, or instantly pleasurable without contemplating the consequences. They were looking for a rush without knowing how long it would last or how quickly the feelings would pass. At first, it seemed as if they had triumphed. They got what they wanted: thrill, excitement, and novelty. Perhaps it was a new connection, companion, or opportunity that seemed good, and they believed in themselves for a while. They'd made the right choice. But reality has a habit of coming up unexpectedly, and what had seemed to be a blessing came to feel like a mistake. Because you weren't just someone in their life. You were an investment. You contributed progress, loyalty, depth, and knowledge. You enhanced them. Instead of developing it, they abandoned it for something that just took from them. They did not trade you for something of equal or greater value. Rather, they exchanged you for an outlay which felt good at the moment but brought no real return, constantly demanding money. The curse they picked didn't just replace you. It was also costly for them. Perhaps they lost their tranquility, time, and possibilities. They can never come back. They eventually understood that what they thought was an enhancement was really a degradation hidden. Regret does not surface immediately. It starts with doubt, then irritation, and then full-fledged. What did I do? By the time they understand what they've lost, the door has closed. Investments do not wait for people to put them at risk. You are not a transitory experience. You are sincere. And now, while they sit with the weight of their guilt, you march on, careless, undamaged, and 10 steps ahead. Number 7. They didn't lose you. But what about their future? Some people fail to see that losing you meant more than just losing a person. It was about losing all you had. You were not just another individual in their life. You were a bridge, a portal to something greater. And by walking away, they did more than merely end their relationship with you. They also shut themselves off from a potential future. You gave them information, clarity, and insight that they didn't realize they needed. You exposed them to perspectives, ideas, and experiences that have the capacity to elevate them, whether they are aware of it or not. You were assisting their development. Yet, not everyone appreciates progress. Some people fail to see it even when it is there in front of them. They misunderstood their own impatience for outgrowing something, while in reality they were walking away from the same thing that was supposed to move them ahead. And now they are stranded because the lessons you taught, the energy you offered, and the doors you opened are not common occurrences. They believed they were making a simple decision, such as moving on or choosing something better. But what they really did was reject their own advertising. They mistook your presence for something normal, not realizing that average individuals do not carry what you did. You were a gift that would have expanded your impact, support, and philosophy. It was all about getting them ready for something greater. However, blessings do not force themselves on people who do not want them. So they are left with anything they want, and whatever they chose will not help them grow, challenge them, or offer them with possibilities. They will recognize it one day, whether when they watch you flourish or when they sense the vacuum left by your absence. But by then, it won't matter since you'll be continuing to grow, change, and step into the future they might have had if they had respected you when they had the chance. Number 8. The hands that released you will want to hold you again. Regret doesn't knock. It rushes inside. At first, they convinced themselves that they made the right choice. They diverted themselves with anything they thought would be better. They told themselves they had moved on, that they didn't miss you, and that their decision was perfect. But time has a way of exposing facts, and the reality is that they let go of something they never wanted to lose. At first, it's only a thought, a brief memory, a moment when they wonder whether they've made a mistake. Then it rises. They begin to realize what is missing, the depth, understanding, support, and presence that used to enrich their lives. And suddenly, what they once took for granted becomes the one thing they wish they had back. But now they must confront reality. You're no longer with them. Not only physically, but also emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The door they so nonchalantly walked out of is now locked shut. The bridge they burned is not just damaged, It has been reduced to ashes. No amount of explanation, reason, or longing can bring it back. They're going to try. Regret is generally coupled with attempts of atonement. Maybe they'll reach out casually, as if nothing happened. Perhaps they'll try to check in as if time had removed the weight of their deception. Perhaps when they see you achieving without them, they will crumble. I completely understand how horribly they misjudged, but it won't matter since you've outgrown them. They had access to a version of you that no longer exists. They carelessly misplaced their earlier blessing, and now they must carry the weight of knowing that certain losses are irreversible. They think they can replace you. They felt they had options. But life has a way of teaching hard lessons. The most significant is that certain doors will never reopen after being closed. And it's a reality they'll have to live with eternally. A number. They didn't deserve you. The universe was aware of this. Some rejections function as veiled rescues. You were not simply removed out of their life. You were purposely removed for your own good. They did not lose you by accident. They did not deserve you in the first place. Initially, you may have felt betrayed, as if you had been abandoned, discarded, or disregarded. But the universe saw what you couldn't. It witnessed how they undervalued you, took you for granted, and never gave you what you really deserved. Instead than spending another second trying to prove your worth to those who couldn't see it, you were erased. Not as punishment, but as a lesson to them. Because the truth is that you have not lost anything. Rather, you released a load. You relieved the stress of caring for someone who never meant to develop. You let go of the load of forced connections that just draining you. And although you may have spent time wondering why everything came apart, you will soon realize that nothing did. Everything came into place. And they lost a blessing. They lost someone who provided deep insight and elevated their lives. They lost to a person who really cared. And now they must face their defeat, knowing that no alternative can ever replace what they threw away. So do not be upset about what you have left behind. Instead, be grateful you got away. The cosmos made it clear that you were never meant to live someplace where your value was ignored. Life has a way of revealing the truth with time. The people who traded you for a curse will comprehend the depth of their error, not through your words, but by their own experiences. What they thought would bring them joy. Instead, excitement and fulfillment would kill them. And by the time they realize the difference between a gift and a burden, the door to you will be irrevocably closed. But this is the finest part. They were the ones who lost, not you. You were the gift. They wasted their promotion. They declined. They refused to cross the bridge. And now, while they cope with the consequences of their own choices, you move on stronger, wiser, and untouched by the havoc they caused in their life. Because blessings do not seek those who do not value them. And you were never meant to be wasted. You are designed to flourish in environments that recognize your worth, in relationships that reciprocate your energy, and in situations that promote your growth. So don't look back. Don't give in to their regret. Do not make them aware. Reduce your determination. You have outgrown the past. The best thing is that, while they lie in the debris of their choices, you can already glimpse the future they might have had if they had made better judgments. If this message spoke to you, if it opened your eyes, made you think, or gave you with the epiphany you were seeking for, please do not go. Subscribe to the channel right now, because this is the kind of reality we provide every time. There's no fluff or cliches, just honest and censored counsel that will shift your outlook. And don't keep this to yourself. Like this video to help others see it. Comment below and let me know if you've ever been the blessing that someone traded for a curse. What happened after they realized their mistake? Let us talk about it. Most importantly, forward this to someone who needs to hear it. Someone who has forgotten their worth. Someone who observes others grieve. We're losing them. Someone who needs a last push to leave the past behind and walk into their power. Because this is more than just stuff. It's about change. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Press the subscribe button and let's keep developing.